Hello, this is Raghav's take. Europe is trapped in a moral hazard. With President Trump pulling support to Ukraine, Europe must plug the gap. But Europe simply does not have enough cash. Hey, wait. Europe's holding over $200 billion, that's nearly 18 lakh crore rupees, of seized Russian assets, and the bulk of them are in Belgium. As long as former US President Biden's dollars were flowing in, European leaders, they had the luxury of just prevaricating. The big boys, that's the UK, France, and Germany, they opposed any confiscation of Russia's frozen $200 billion. They said it's against international law and could undermine the confidence of other investors, for example, from China, from the Gulf states, from India, from Brazil, in holding sterling or euro assets. Besides, they also feared Russian retaliation, as President Putin could expropriate European government and corporate assets on his soil. Frankly, Putin's already declared hostile intentions against Wintershall D, which is a German gas operator, Uniper, Fortrum, Renault, Carlsberg, Danone, and Unilever. And I've just named a few of these vulnerable entities. But the Baltic states, and that's Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, as also Poland, these people have suffered brutal repression under Soviet occupation. So they have no such moral tethers. They are baying for retribution. They cite precedents. For example, the reparations inflicted on Germany after the Second World War. Even Iraq was forced to pay over $50 billion to atone for invading Kuwait. So they believe a full seizure of the aggressor's assets is completely justified. Now, in the past, these European countries have created a grey blur to resolve this dilemma. They've used I would say somewhat clever, others would say specious, distinction between the principal amount seized and the income and the profit generated on these sequestered assets, which also is several $billion annually. This income, they argue, is being generated within European jurisdiction, so it can be repurposed according to domestic laws. What's more, the income and profit is subject to European taxes, which is frankly unarguable. So, European leaders gave Ukraine a $50 billion loan in 2024, and this was securitized by the future profit and income accruing on the seized Russian assets. This, everybody believed this was done with a clean conscience. But President Trump has upended the old order, and he's created a new world of elastic consciences. He's forcing Europe to dismount from its moral high horse. As Trump sees it, if Ukraine desperately needs cash, then $200 billion of Russian assets are sitting tantalizingly in Belgium within easy reach. So the UK, which was once a conscientious objector, that's loosening up now. It's getting ready to appropriate nearly $3 billion by selling Russian oligarch Roman Abramovich's stake in Chelsea FC. Also, France's National Assembly has validated seizures, but Macron's government is still sort of demurring. The Germans, although the Germans continue to be the most apprehensive. Unquestionably, it is a moral tangle, but it needs to be resolved urgently. As Russia begins to gain a menacing dominance in the war, the time for debating is over. Europe needs to act. But how? Now, this got me thinking. Is there a historical, perhaps mythological, parallel that could illuminate the path forward for Europe? Yes, yes. And it dates back 5,000 years to the wisdom of Lord Krishna in the Mahabharata. I'm not kidding. There's a striking similarity between Putin and Duryodhana, who was the cruel chief of the Kauravas. Also, there's a striking similarity between Zelenskyy and Arjuna, the most charismatic of the Pandavas. Now, Duryodhana had illegally usurped the throne of Hastinapur from the Pandavas, who were the rightful heirs. His lust for power was supreme. He chose to launch a brutal, fratricidal war rather than do a reasonable compromise. Now, eerily similarly, Putin's done the same to Ukraine. Even though Ukraine was a distinct, free and independent country until the 18th century, Putin believes just 2 centuries of forcible occupation has given Russia a sovereign claim over Ukraine. The Pandavas, they enjoyed the trust and support of Hastinapur's citizens. Well, just as 90% of Ukrainians voted to get free from Russia's yoke in 1991. Even the Russian-speaking territories of Crimea and Donbas, they wanted independence. Yet Duryodhana and Putin both imposed their ugly, repressive wars to quell an unwilling citizenry. Both chose to ignore peace overtures made in good faith. Duryodhana refused to cede a mere 5 villages to buy equity with his estranged cousins. And Putin, he turned a blind eye to Ukraine giving up its nuclear stockpile in exchange for freedom. So you see the parallel? What can Europe and Ukraine learn from day 9, the 9th day of the Kurukshetra war in the Mahabharata? Now remember that Bhishma Pitama, the mighty warrior who was commanding the Kauravas, he was wreaking havoc on the Pandavas. But Bhishma Pitama was a reluctant conqueror. He actually loved and respected the Pandavas. Bhishma knew they were victims of Duryodhana's deceit. However, Bhishma had, he'd taken a vow of loyalty to the throne of Hastinapur, so he felt duty-bound to defend the extant rulers who, by default, were Duryodhana and the Kauravas. So after the battle ended on day 8, Bhishma Pitama, I call him the tragically conflicted Colossus, he told the Pandavas how they could defeat him. And that's what he said. Shikhandi was born a woman and later became a man. To me, he is still Amba, whom I had wronged in my past. I shall never raise my weapon against him. If Shikhandi leads the attack and you, Arjun, fire your arrows from behind, I will not resist. That is how you can bring me down. So Lord Krishna went into battle on the 9th day, the following day. He was confident that Bhishma Pitama would be felled and the Pandavas would win. But he ran smack into a visibly remorseful Arjuna. Now this is what Arjuna said. How can I raise my bow against the man who taught me how to wield it? How can I strike down the man who has protected me since childhood? Lord Krishna, in response, says, in war, deception and strategy are not deceit. They are wisdom. Bhishma himself has told you that as long as he fights with full might, he cannot be defeated. But he has a weakness, Shikhandi. Use that knowledge. Let Shikhandi lead the attack and strike Bhishma when he is vulnerable. This is not treachery, but justice. That's what Lord Krishna said. This is not treachery, but justice. Well, Arjun then finally surrendered to Lord Krishna's eternal teachings. Bhishma was neutralized. The Pandavas defeated the Kauravas on day 18 of the Kurukshetra war. So now, I've narrated this story to you, this piece from the epic. What am I trying to say? I think Zelenskyy should flag day 9 in a copy of the Mahabharata and then gift those copies to key leaders of Europe. He should boldly highlight what Lord Krishna said. This is not treachery, but justice. This is not treachery, but justice. And then Europe could easily transfer $200 billion of seized Russian assets to Ukraine's central bank. This was Raghav's take today.